Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Tickets Please. On this episode, I'm joined by Grant Phipps from Tone Madison, and we are going to discuss some of our favorite performances of 2025, as well as some favorite movie-going experiences from the year as well. So welcome, Grant. Thank you for joining me. Just to introduce Grant quick, Grant is a Madison transplant who started writing about film and local publications like Lakefront Row over a decade ago, and has since steadily contributed reviews, interviews, commentaries, and other arts coverage for Tone Madison. For the last 7+ years, Grant has been working as Tone's staff editor for the film section. More recently, has been involved in curating select Mills Folly microcinema programs. You may hear Grant profess an undying enthusiasm for sound design, something that has informed his stint as a community DJ at WSUM 91.7 FM during the later half of the 2010s. So thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. It's our third sit down, so always a pleasure to engage with you on the movies in the greater Madison area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like once you get to the end of the year, you're like, was the past year really that great? Because I feel like a lot of the the negative experiences kind of jump out at you and stick in your memory. But then after I go through all the variety of different screening events I went to and the traditional commercial theaters, I'm like, actually last year was really great. So I think the first thing that I saw last year was in late January at the Chazen Museum. The Cinematheque hosted the screening of Pickpocket on 35mm, the Robert-Bresson movie. And then they had this short film restoration of, it's called Lafcadio. It's like a lost, queer, poetic short film from 1948 that was made by Jean Beranger. It was basically like the renewed world premiere of this film in this century, and that was really special. I mean, I don't have like the greatest memory of the film experience. It was very surrealistic, impressionistic, but Zach Zahos, who was, he's a former project assistant. I think he might actually work for the Wisconsin Center for Film and Theater Research. He wrote up notes about the history of the film and its restoration on the Cinematheque blog, if people want to seek that out and want to learn more about what that was. Other notable things that came up, sort of going chronologically, if I go to like the summer months, the Cinematheque had a program of David Lynch shorts, his like early experimental work. But yeah, I had actually watched all these films in the same sequence right after David Lynch passed away in January. So it was really a pleasure to see these again with an audience, especially one like The Amputee, which I think it's presented in two versions. You see like... were you at the screening? Yeah. So you see the one take and then you see the second take and how they compare. And I didn't get much out of it just watching it myself, but the audience thought it was quite funny. And I was like, you know what? This is better than I remember it being like 6.5 months ago. So that was great. I mean, they also paired a Twin Peaks episode that Mary Sweeney directed in that program, which was interesting. I mean, I'll always be in favor of like putting something unconventional in like a program like that. It's especially at a theater like that. It's just known for showing like feature-length films.
Yeah, for sure.
Other things I want to point out: my friend and colleague and programmer James Krell has his hand in a lot of different things. He does work with Mills Folly Microcinema, which I do also, but he also does work with Duck Soup Cinema at the Overture Center, and Mamoka Cinema, which I'm not sure is returning this year. I hope it is, but I haven't heard any news about it. But he also does the Rooftop Cinema at the Mamoka during August and early September. I think the first screening this year was like the end of July. Usually the selections run more experimental there, and that was certainly true this year. He had like one more straight-ahead documentary called Sugar Cane, if I'm remembering correctly. But I would say that the most interesting screening was this film called IB Area. I'm not even sure how to describe this film. It was made in like 2007 by Ryan Tricardon. It's kind of like DIY satire with like, it has like a very queer drag angle to it. It can be very grating, very challenging viewing experience, but there's some really like hilarious moments in the film. And I think it was a great thing to program because who else is going to program something like that?
Yeah.
There's like, it's not something that would fit in anywhere else. And I'm just glad that it got a screening here, even if it was like not that well received from some people I know. And the audience there was like, I don't know, maybe like 20 some people sitting on like folding chairs or the Momoka gallery chairs. A few other things I certainly want to point out without going into too much depth. There was a roadshow version of Apocalypse Now at Cinematheque in September. And Jim Healy, I think, handed out these pamphlets kind of detailing the history of the making. Here it is. It has a Rialto Pictures stamp on the back. Basically, the roadshow version is the film without the credit sequence because the credits are listed in this booklet.
Okay.
And I had not seen the film before, and it was a treat to see it that way. Especially like if we can cut a few minutes off of a 2.5-hour movie, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Some things outside the Cinematheque. Atwood Music Hall started doing these silent movie nights in the summer, which I kind of broke the story on, I guess. It's not like that big of a deal, but it's something for cinephiles and people who like seeing older movies. Basically, they had these, like public domain films from the 20s projected like on the screen behind their main stage where bands perform. And then they had Topher Christensen, the owner of the space. He hired some local DJs. I think one was from Milwaukee to like play music to accompany the work.
Interesting.
So it was a cool idea. I mean, I went to 2 of them, and I think the better of the 2 was the double feature of Dr. Caligari and Fall of the House of Usher.
Oh.
It was just kind of a distinctive experience that you wouldn't get just going to, again, like the Cinematheque. I mean, they do show silent films there with often piano accompaniment from David Drazen, who I think comes up from like Chicago area to do that. He's been doing that for like as long as I've lived here, I think. And then Lewis Peterson at 4-Star has been booking a lot of stuff around town. A lot of the things at the Bartell Theater, but he's also done some screenings at Lola's Sidecar Lounge. I've yet to go there for a screening, but I think his best and most successful screening was his Joe Meredith short film program of the variant films plus Ataraxia. I think that's the most recent one. But yeah, there are like these kind of body horror-esque DIY horror films. Did I just repeat myself? But yeah, they're like indie horror films, micro-budget horror films. They're like 40 minutes each. The last one was like 20 minutes. Take a lot of style and influence from like survival horror video games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. And I think they even had like, he had like 8 or 16-bit graphics and sound effects cut into the movie. It was like a lot of fun with the audience, and again, like not something that would kind of neatly fit into other spaces unless someone's like taking the initiative to do it. And then the last thing, I guess chronologically, was a documentary screening on 35 at the Cinematheque. Victor Arice's a 1992 documentary about a painter in Spain, Antonio Garcia, attempting to paint a quince tree, which is kind of like a pear type of fruit. And he wants to do it perfectly and kind of chronicles this time period of him doing it. I think it's a rare film that you can't really see that easily unless you maybe like bootleg it or something. But to see it on 35, kind of slow cinema like that, which is I'm very much into, was a treat. And that was in like mid-November.
So yeah, I guess let's move into some of our favorite performances of 2025. So if you want to start off with one of yours.
Oh, thank you again. When I was like thinking about this list, the first person who came to mind was Jesse Plemons in Begonia, which is not a movie that I loved, I would say, but I would say out of the last 3 Yorgos Lanthimos movies, I would definitely rewatch this one before Poor Things and Kinds of Kindness. That's the title, right?
Yep.
The anthology. But yeah, this is kind of like, I mean, I don't know how much I should reiterate the plot, but it's kind of like a home abduction film instead of a home invasion film, kind of like inversing that. And it's also a reimagining of this South Korean film called Save the Green Planet from 2003, which I also haven't seen, unfortunately, at least not yet. But just Plemons in this film, he just gives the best performance of his career, I think, by far. Like the writing on the page is pretty strong for him as this conspiratorial character, Teddy. But I think like he really elevates it above what's on the page. And his like battle of wits with Emma Stone's character, who's like this kind of cold, calculating CEO of a pharmaceutical conglomerate. I didn't actually remember that. I had to look that up. I'm like, what company was she actually working for? Because I have no idea. But her name's Michelle Fuller, and Teddy believes that she's an alien who's hell-bent on destroying the Earth. I mean, I think that, you know, in 2025 or 2026 now, like sane people can instantly condemn someone like Teddy, and he's kind of worthy. He's worthy of all that condemnation. He's not a likable character, but Plemons really grounds him in these subtle and brilliant ways that are kind of hard to articulate unless I like go back and rewatch the movie and like point out certain moments. I mean, especially I think that's true for like for his behavior in the final like act of the movie.
Yeah.
The ending of the film, you know, without going into it, didn't click with me. I thought it was like predictably subversive for Lanthimos' style. Like I feel like the film benefits from you not knowing anything about the director. I just saw the ending coming. I'm like, this is going to be the ending, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, terrific performance in the film and really made the movie for me, despite all the other performances generally being great too.
Yeah. I guess I know to get to one that we may have a disagreement on. And I mean, it's probably the performance of the year. I mean, both for me and probably as far as it's Timothée Chalamet from from Marty Supreme. He's likely going to win the Oscar for Best Actor this year, and in my opinion, it will be one of the greatest wins in the category in years. I'll admit I'm a longtime Timmy truther. Going back to Call Me by Your Name, I don't think I've seen a performance from him that's been bad, but I think the thing that really impressed me about Marty Supreme was all the ways it leaned into all of the strengths I know he has, and then adding new things that I was a little bit surprised by. It's not the most surprising Timmy's performance. You're not like, wow, it's like transformative per se, but he's adding these little things that I'm just like, I haven't quite seen that before. I guess one of it is like I'm always impressed by actors that can actually like deliver dialogue at like the rate of like a classic screwball comedy. Like, and there are scenes that Timmy is delivering dialogue at like the rate of like His Girl Friday. It goes perfectly with the kind of insane like pace and like coked out nature of the entire film. But despite everything around him kind of obviously spinning out of control, the thing I was also impressed by is how Timmy's able to maintain his kind of suave dirtbag composure through it all. He does a good job of communicating like, this guy's a dirtbag, he screws everybody over, but you get why everybody keeps on trusting him. Like there's just some, I mean, it's similar to Plemons, like there's just something about this guy that you kind of like, you kind of want to root for. And he does a really good job of bringing that out. I think without going into detail, the final act of the film is really what kind of solidified it for me, because Chalamet is able to communicate a real shift, subtle but there within the character, that suggests possibly that he has actually found profound change in his life. I think we're meant to be incredibly suspicious of that change, especially given, I'll just say, the sound design over the credits. I think definitely indicates
the anachronistic song that's playing from the 80s.
Well, and the sound design that's going with the song,
Oh,
I
sure.
think is definitely suggesting like, has this guy like turned his life around and like, you know, accepted his responsibility or whatever? I don't know. I think he's still going to be the same guy in a lot of ways, but I do think it kind of recognizes how, no matter what, like, you know, I guess the life event that happens to him is, you know, changes anybody to a certain degree. It is a transformative thing. So I think in those final scenes, I think just Timmy communicates that change really, really well for me.
Yeah, that's great. I really like the screwball comedy His Girl Friday comparison. I just don't know that the rest of the cast is on that level. Like it feels like he's performing in a different movie than everybody else. But maybe that's kind of the point. I was kind of reflecting on that. Well, there's like these weird anachronistic elements in the film with the music, and the score by Daniel Lopatin, One O Tricks Point Never, and then there's also the use of the '80s music. So I'm like, is there something like I'm missing here? I just feel like, we'll talk about that when we talk about ensembles a little bit, but yeah, I just felt like his performance felt very self-conscious and like he's not on the same wavelength as the rest of the cast.
I think it's just a stylistic thing with the Safdies. I mean,
Sure.
I think you could probably say a similar thing about Sandler in Uncut Gems. I mean, maybe he fits a little bit better into that world than Chalamet does, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, to switch gears kind of entirely to focus, we talked about toxic men. So let's talk about women maybe.
Okay.
I think my favorite female performance of the year, or maybe just performance of the year, not designating gender or anything, is Kathleen Chalfant in Familiar Touch. And she also has a kind of small role in Hal Hartley's latest / maybe last film called Where to Land, which I just discovered a few weeks ago. I mean, Chalfant is an actor she just turned 80, I think, but she was in her late 70s when she made this film. I think we often focus on like younger actors for like favorite performances because a majority of the roles in movies are written for younger people, you know, anywhere from like teenagers to people in their like early 40s kind of. And then if you're outside those parameters, it's harder to get attention or harder to get a role. But, you know, I don't think I can praise the quality of what Chalfant is doing in this enough. I mean, she conveys this character, Ruth, who is suffering from early stages of dementia and has to adjust to an assisted living community. I mean, portraying a character like that with that condition is very challenging, and it requires a certain deftness of touch in the writing and directing. And Sarah Friedland, who's helmed both of those things, did a terrific job. I remember reading an interview with the director, Friedland, who talked about wanting to avoid the infantilizing sweet grandma trope, and I think that the film succeeds very movingly at that if you watch it. And then her, Kathleen Chalfant's part in Where to Land is really interesting too. She's like an elder friend of the main character, who's kind of like a stand-in for Hal Hartley himself, the director. And the character portrayed by Bill Sage and her have like a philosophical discussion about technology, ethics, and Marxism that's really sharp, and it's consistent with what I saw from her in Familiar Touch, and it's kind of a shame the film didn't screen around here, but the Cinematheque, I think, is the only place that's screened anything by Hal Hartley in the past decade, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have another performance, solo performance you want to single out?
I'll jump to Tessa Thompson and Nina Hoss in Hedda. So unfortunately, another film that didn't really get any screening around here, but is on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out. I love a story about messy queer people. And this is a story about two messy queer people in like the 1930s-ish. It's based on the classic Hedda Gabler play by Henrik Ibsen. From what I've heard, it is wildly different than the original. The original is not queer in any way. Hedda Gabler is white. So both of those, things being in this version, that's obviously a very big thematic piece of this version. Basically, Hedda Gabler is this woman that's newly married to this academic that is incredibly in debt, basically trying to score this academic job, and she finds out that he's up against her former lover, who is Eileen, played by Nina Hoss. Basically, over the course of a party at their very expensive mansion that she convinced her husband to recently buy, she tries to decide basically whether she loves this woman or she actually wants to kill her. And that's essentially the dynamic between these two. But Tessa Thompson is just devilishly fun to watch in this film. Just watch the gears turning in her head as she's deciding what her her actual feelings are towards this woman, towards her husband, and kind of letting the chaos agent within her take hold. She's a woman that seems to be, she's so incredibly good at manipulating events and people around her, seemingly at times out of just boredom. Which is kind of fun.
Who is sorry to interrupt you, I just was curious who the director of this film is.
So the director is Nia DaCosta.
Oh, okay, who just directed the 28 Years Later, the Bone Temple movie. Yeah.
And I've long been a fan of her as well. Her first film, Little Woods, with Tessa Thompson, is really good. But really well directed. Hoss as as Eileen is this very striking, very captivating academic who is also a recovering alcoholic, and that kind of takes hold as Hedda becomes kind of the devil on her shoulder, encouraging her to kind of let loose. And as she does, I think Hoss plays kind of her descent into drunkenness really, really well. But I think both of them should have been considered for awards, Oscars, whatever. I think both of these performances are incredible. Nina Hoss, I mean, she should have been nominated for her role in Phoenix in
Yeah, she's
2014.
very well known from Christian Petzold films,
Yeah.
German director, I believe.
Yeah. So she's long been really good, and the pairing of these two especially, I really enjoyed.
Great. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Unfortunately, like you said, it didn't screen around here, and I don't have any streaming subscriptions currently.
Yeah.
But I'll get a hold of it somehow. A couple other performances I wanted to note, not in any specific detail really, is Ben Whishaw and Peter Hujar's Day. I believe that was also another premiere in Madison at the Cinematheque.
Yep.
I mean, he's basically just playing the famous photographer. He's being interviewed, and it's like kind of one of those real-time films where it's, you know, you're following this character through a day, and all he's doing is just sort of talking about mostly banal things. But his performance is so precise, and it kind of has like almost this relaxing quality over time. The film is only maybe like 75 minutes, but it really establishes what it sets out to do from the first minute. The other thing I wanted to mention was June Diane Raphael's 90 seconds of screen time in Weapons. No one has... People talk about Weapons constantly about, you know, the different characters, and she just plays like a minor character. She only has, like I said, 90 seconds of screen time. I've been a fan of her for a while as like a character actor. People probably know her best from the Tennifer role in Parks and Recreation, where she says it's Xanax o'clock.
Okay.
And things like.
And who is she in Weapons?
She plays the cop. Her name's Donna. And she's the fiance to Paul, who's the cop.
Okay.
And you know she attacks
Yeah.
Julia Garner's character, and then she confronts Paul later about it. And I was like, she is so funny. I wish she was given more to do in this movie. And like, I'm always a fan when I see her pop up in it. I mean, mostly it's been in like series, TV shows, but she's in some movies. But she only seems to have like these small parts, and I'm like, you need to give her like a great role because I think she'll really run with it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we can kind of move into ensemble highlights is I want to talk about Chase Infinity in One Battle After Another. This is like her debut feature film performance. Yep. And she's like, you know, meeting like Sean Penn in a few scenes that are like super intense, and she's just incredible, especially as the film goes on. I guess I wasn't certain about how I'd feel about her in the initial scenes when she's just at home talking to her dad, played by Leo DiCaprio. But like as the film went on and the film demanded more from her, she met the moment and exceeded those expectations, I think, at every turn. Maybe pun intended, or every hill. But but we can dig a little bit more into that if you want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, well, just to comment on Chase Infinity too, I mean, I think it's an underrated quality of an actor that you can look really cool during action scenes. And she looks really cool during especially that final chase. So I think great performance all around, but I'll just say that's an aspect that hasn't been talked about as much, that she inhabits those moments so well and so believably. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorites for ensembles is One Battle After Another. I mean, how could it not? I mean, it's not only a film that's filled with Leonardo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor, Chase Infinity, Sean Penn, and Benicio del Toro, and they're just all cooking beyond belief. But yes, there's also Regina Hall, who has a small but very important role. Then there's all of like the fascist right-wing goons that populate PTA's America. You have foot soldiers like James Ratterman's Danvers, who is the guy that just keeps on interrogating everybody. And I really love him because he's kind of Sean Penn's underling, but Sean Penn is like, just this buffoonish guy, like insane guy, and he's got this underling that is just like professionally evil, like just really way too good at his job, and that's kind of terrifying.
And the Christmas Adventurers Club.
Yes, and
people,
then
like Jim Downey,
Yep.
who was like a famous SNL writer for a long time.
Yes.
He also had some like minor roles in '90s movies like Billy Madison and Dirty Work, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I also really like the Tony Goldwyn, who plays Virgil Throckmorton. I mean, I was just like looking through the cast, like the character names in this movie are incredible.
Well, that's inspired by Thomas Pynchon,
Yes,
who
of
was
course.
famous for the
but
absurdist
a lot of them are original character names. But obviously, very very Pynchon-esque. But yeah, Tony Goldwyn is kind of the guy they choose as their kind of fixer to try to clean everything up. And I like that he literally looks like way too similar to another Christmas adventurer guy. I like that there's like two guys that you're like, is that the same person? But they're totally different people, and they're just like this very clean cut, like almost like Patrick Bateman level,
sociopathic.
Clean. Yeah. But then I also like it's even down to like the random immigration officers. Like there's like one guy that at one point has one of the best lines in the entire movie when he's trying to break into Benicio del Toro's place, and he's like, "We have to go kinetic," which is like one of the dumbest, like most cop things you can possibly say. And
How many times do you see the film? I've only seen it once. So
twice.
Okay.
Twice, yeah.
Still pretty good isolating these moments. Yeah.
I just really enjoy somebody that can really capture the like meathead operator, like PTA does here. It's just very good. And then one more person to mention, Dan Cheriton as Comrade Josh, which I just really enjoyed him as that character. So yeah, I mean, a film full of just incredible small performances, top to bottom.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it again myself. I probably would have seen it in like VistaVision or one of the other special formats, but I'm like, I just saw it at the Ultra Screen at Marcus Point on the opening morning, I think. It's like September 26th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great experience, but I only saw it once.
Yep.
I'll just kind of dive into two films to end my emphasis on like supporting ensemble casts. One is EFIS, about the recreational baseball team in Massachusetts playing like their final game in the early fall. This is a film I actually screened. I booked from Music Box Films and showed it at the Bartell Theater during the summer. And it was pretty well attended. I think we had close to 60 people there for it. But the film is special because I think that there's not really a main character in the film. You're just kind of bouncing back and forth between all these kind of curmudgeon type characters. There are also some younger guys on the team as well. And it's like, as I was watching, especially that second time, I'm like, this is kind of like a new baseball seasonal classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it definitely has a different tone than a lot of those baseball movies, like maybe like Bull Durham, which I don't like that much. I mean, that's a very like Hollywood movie. I mean, it has good performances in it, but the movie itself is just kind of like meh to me. This is more of like bringing like a indie aesthetic to it, I guess. I mean, since everyone's so great in it, you have like Keith William Richards, Stephen Radocha, Cliff Blake, Keith Polson, who's in a lot of like New York-centric micro-budget movies, John R. Smith Jr., and then they actually have former major leaguer Bill Spaceman Lee, who has an incredible few minutes in the movie. So that was just kind of great to discover that movie and then get to actually book it myself and present it kind of nervously as I would.
Yeah.
The other movie I want to point out is Marty Supreme. While I'm not as enamored with Timmy Chalamet's performance as you, I think like everybody else in the movie is pretty fantastic. From Gwyneth Paltrow, Odessa Zion, who's is that how you say her name?
Yep.
She's the daughter of Pamela Adlon. Kevin O'Leary, who's from Shark Tank.
Yep, Mr. Wonderful.
Who plays Gwyneth Paltrow's husband. And then you have Abel Ferrara, the director, and they're playing an evil mob guy.
Yeah.
But like just putting all these people together in a movie, I think casting director Jennifer Venditti deserves a lot of credit for pairing all these people up who you'd never think would work together, and who people aren't really. I mean, like Kevin O'Leary is not really an actor. I doubt he would call himself an actor. He's like a Canadian businessman.
Yeah.
So like that's what really kept the momentum going for me, because the film is like about 2.5 hours, as several of these movies are, and a lot of more movies are than there should be. I'm not a fan of like these 150-minute run times personally. But if I had to pick out somebody among the supporting cast, I think Gwyneth Paltrow gives like one of the best performances I've seen from her in a long time.
Yeah. As
Kay Stone, this retired, was it silent era film actor? I can't remember.
Yeah, kind of
late silent era, early sound era. And the film takes place in what, the 1950s?
The 50s.
So yeah. And she basically is just kind of tagging along with her husband, and then she gets involved in a small theater production, which leads to a memorable scene with her and Marty.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you want to end on a film or two about more ensembles.
Yeah, so three performances. I mean, the whole ensemble is great, but three performances especially that popped out to me were from Sentimental Value. Renata Reinsve, Stellan Skarsgård, and Inga Ibsdottir Lilius. For me, these, I guess, Timmy would be the fourth, and these are the other three performances of the year for me. Renata, I mean, she was incredible in Worst Person in the World as well, from the same director. But this one, I mean, she's an absolute movie star. The entire film rests on her shoulders. I guess more specifically, her face. I mean, there's so much within this film that is told not by what she's saying, but what is on her face, which is kind of the whole point of the film. Yes. It's a family that will not truly communicate with each other, and is facing an impasse because of that. I think too, the kind of highlight scene of the film is when she finally reads the monologue that her father had written for her in the film, and I think it's like especially juxtaposed against Elle Fanning's performance of the same piece. I think it's really interesting because she starts off and she's just kind of reading it, and the more she reads it, the more she actually starts to perform it, and you can finally see like, oh, this is the reason why Elle Fanning didn't work in this role, because this entire material was not only written for her, it's about her in this really interesting way. I think talking about that scene too, the other highlight of that scene is just seeing Inga Ibsdottir Lilius as her sister reacts to her reading that, and then eventually within that scene she has like probably the most famous line from the entire movie that's been going around social media for months now since people have seen it. Lilius is incredible. I mean, maybe even more so than Renata. She is the reactive performance of the movie. She doesn't have a ton of dialogue, but it's really her communicating her dynamic within this family. And then the other highlight is obviously Stellan Skarsgård, which, like, what a 2025 for him. Not only, I think, the greatest supporting performance from him in this film, but also, like, in Andor, he's one of the greatest TV performances I've seen in like a decade. Within this film, again, communicates so much with just a look. When Elle Fanning is performing her version of the monologue, as an audience, especially when I first saw it, I'm tending to be like, oh, she's doing pretty well, because it is Elle Fanning, like, so, she's doing pretty well with this monologue. But the moment it cuts back to him, you're like, oh, there's something missing here. There's something not quite working out about this. I also really liked when he visits his old cinematographer friend, and he says so much within that scene without actually saying it.
Yeah, I'll just compliment that. I mean, I can't remember the character names off the top of my head, but Inga, her performance was particularly moving for me. There's kind of I feel like it's toward the middle of the film, maybe leaning into the late second act, where she's reading and discovering these details about her mother.
Yes.
It's very upsetting, just what happened. And, talking about like great face acting, or just how Joachim Trier directs the film. And it very much feels like in the spirit of like an Ingmar Bergman film. I mean, even more so than some of his other works. I went back and rewatched Worst Person in the World, and I like that even more than I did the first time. So I'm hoping that is also the case with Sentimental Value. Not like like an absolute favorite of the year, but definitely like an 8 out of 10 movie for me or something like that. Yeah.
It jumped up the list for me on a rewatch. I think honestly because of the performances, just really, really incredible work throughout. And then I guess just two more I'll just mention as great ensembles. I've always thought that Francis Lawrence has been pretty good at casting his films. The Hunger Games were always full of interesting talent, and The Long Walk to me is no different. Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson are the standouts for me. Johnson's another one of my guys. He's from really, really liked him in the HBO series Industry. He's also really good in small rom-com Rye Lane. And Hoffman, I was impressed by in Licorice Pizza, but here I think he's given a little bit more to lean into. And I think it seemed to me like both of them leaned into a queer reading of their relationship in interesting ways. And then, it's a film about a bunch of guys walking around, essentially. So there's a ton of guys in this movie.
It's a misleading way to describe The Long Walk.
Yes.
I mean, the film does have some good performances. I just struggled with the premise, and there were a lot of just like peripheral questions that I kept asking myself as I was watching the movie. I mean, maybe it's just like not a movie that is designed for me to respond to in a certain way. But yeah, the performances are good, and especially Cooper Hoffman. The issue with David Johnson I had in that movie was just the accent he was doing. We talked about this before we started rolling here, but I didn't quite understand what he was doing with his voice. Like, it kind of went in and out, like him doing like a more twangy kind of voice from the American South. I mean, he's British, so it's a challenge to pull that off. I mean, yeah. But, I mean, in terms of like beyond that, if you're not getting hung up on that, I would say he's good in the movie.
Yeah.
Work out that accent beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree with the accent. I think it was fine,
Okay.
but I guess I ride for this film a little harder. I guess.
Well, yeah, that's great. I mean,
It's
we all have those.
I think I get less hung up on the plot details because it is supposed to be so metaphor. I mean, it's essentially about Vietnam.
Yeah, you're getting invested in the relationships between the characters, which is really what the film's about, not necessarily about, the literal long walk, as you just said, yeah.
And then the other ensemble for me is Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag, kind of a spy film by way of Agatha Christie. Obviously, with that, the cast is very important. Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett are perhaps the king and queen of hot, secretive people who are emotionally impenetrable.
It's a great little synopsis.
Yeah, they're pretty perfect. Really liked Tom Burke. He's kind of a oafish old man with a girlfriend way too young for him, and definitely the perfect name to match his inferiority complex, Freddie Smalls. Pretty good writing there. The younger girlfriend, Marissa Bella, also another favorite of mine from industry. She's really fantastic. I was really struck by her on a second viewing as well. She's having so much fun in this movie, and it's
I agree.
amazing.
I thought she was absolute standout in this movie. I mean, all the performances are good, but she really stands out. She was also cast as Amy Winehouse in that kind of flop movie. What was that even called? I don't even know.
Back to Black.
Oh, Back to
Unfortunately.
Obviously, that's what it's called. I did not see that, but I'm kind of interested just based on her performance in Black Bag.
I don't think it's as good from what I've seen, unfortunately. And
another accent issue thing, maybe?
I think it's more just music biopics are just hard. But and then I guess one more shout out in Black Bag is Naomi Harris, who plays kind of a therapist for spooks with very questionable morals. And I just love Naomi Harris. I really like her when she can do a British accent, her British accent, because I just enjoy the way she says things. Just really pleasing to the ear. So, and that's a lot of this. It's I think a pretty great script by David Koepp, and it's just really great to hear this dialogue come out of these actors' mouths. So yeah, those are my ensembles.
That's great. Yeah, a lot to mull over and some films to rewatch for both of us, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or discover for the first time.
Well, that is our discussion of our favorite performances of 2025. Grant, where can people see more of your work?
ToneMadison.com, ToneMadison.com. Yeah, and I may have another screening or two to present at the Bartell Theater this year. We'll just have to see how that pans out, but I'm hoping to do something. And yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, I will also have my top 10 films of the year coming up pretty shortly here, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Josiah.
Thank you.